It's well known that students and teachers alike tend to deal with certain distractions throughout the day. But what happens when the building that you teach and learn in is the distraction? This is the issue faced by Cornerstone Christian Academy, a private school in Northeast Ohio. Faced with an overcrowded facility and less than adequate teaching amenities, the school faces a complex problem that I believe industrial design can solve. I'm Johnathan Stopp, and this is my capstone project for the Cornerstone Christian Academy Campus Expansion Plan. As I walk you through this architectural design capstone, I'll be showing you 4 different stages of my design process. First, I'll introduce you to my client and talk about the precedent issue and problems that they're currently dealing with and why it's important enough to merit a solution. Then, I'll show you the additional research that I did into the problem that helped me to develop design guidelines to base my deliverables around. After that, I'll show you my ideation process, how I use the tools of industrial design to refine my potential solutions, and then I'll show you that final design that I arrived at. We'll start with the issue, and I'll get to introduce you to Cornerstone Christian Academy, which is the real-world client that I was able to work with for this capstone. Cornerstone is a K-12 non-denominational Christian school in Willoughby Hills, Ohio, just east of Cleveland. It has a student body currently of 421 students, which actually puts it in the top 20% of all Ohio private schools in terms of the largest student body. And that's a number that is only projected to continue to grow. However, this rising enrollment has created an overcrowded facility within the school, a situation complicated by the fact that this building isn't really optimized to serve as an educational facility. In the words of one of CCA's own faculty, quote, "We're growing in a building that isn't designed for us." And you can see the problems that can come from this building that acts as a school without really being designed as one. But why is this important? Why have I dedicated 15 weeks of my last semester to try to tackle this problem? Well, first, because I believe that building design impacts the educational experience for students and teachers alike. As a student myself, I realize that I'm investing my time and resources into not just my faculty or the curriculum, but into the learning environment and the learning atmosphere as well. And any distraction in that learning environment, no matter how small, is going to affect my ability to learn, grow, and develop. So in designing the building to solve overcrowding, we will create a better educational atmosphere for all students investing into this facility. A second reason is that I believe building design impacts relationships, and this is for both bad and good. An example of design impacting relationships in a negative light is present in the current situation, as Cornerstone is actually renting this building from a local church, a church called the Willoughby Hills Friends Church, which is an organization with interest in, but little affiliation with the school itself. And while these organizations have several commonalities among them, the overcrowding of the school has created some tensions between both these parties. Yet as bad design can bring disharmony, I believe that good design can bring reharmony and harmonize both these groups and rallying them together around this shared space. I also believe that I am a designer that can be invested into this project at a very personal level. First and foremost, I have a personal experience with this building. Willoughby Hills Friends Church was my childhood church for the first 13 and 14 years of my life. And now this building that I've experienced as a kid, I get to use that knowledge to help design this building for other kids, which I think will be very helpful for me. Second, I also have a lot of ties with Cornerstone as well. My sister is a recent graduate of the school, and both my parents have served as basketball coaches for their athletic department. So in this way, I get to act as a design mediator with interest in both parties. While Cornerstone is my primary client, that doesn't mean that I'm going to completely ignore Friends Church and the solutions that I'm generating in hopes to try to solve both of these parties' issues. Lastly, I'm a designer with the architectural resources needed to make a realistic and grounded design. My father is not just a basketball coach, but a licensed commercial and residential architect, and I was able to draw on some of his expertise in order to help me fully flesh out this project and make it something realistic enough to be able to be delivered to the client. And I'm taking all those resources into my capstone thesis, which is that I believe that CCA's relationship with Friends Church can be mutually improved with the same architectural expansion plan that solves the school's overcrowding issue. Now the school knows this, as they're already entertaining what a potential expansion plan may look like. They've actually gone as far as to buy a new plot of land on their existing site that could be used for a future expansion. However, they're still in the preliminary stages, getting advice from experts and leaders in terms of if they want this to be their decision moving forward. So this is a perfect time for me as an industrial and architectural designer to come alongside the school's advisory board and help to optimize this expansion plan to the best of my capabilities for both of these parties. So with that in mind, I'm going to have a couple of deliverables for my client. First, according to the school advisory board's requests, I'm going to put in a new elementary school addition to help give Cornerstone more space. We picked elementary school here because we believe that those students have the most to benefit from a new school space that is tailor-made to be a school and tailor-made for students. But I won't just stop with the existing building. I'm going to go ahead and do a full campus design for that current building. Right now, the existing structure is really sitting in a very expansive parking space that allows us to be able to play with this lot and make it feel a little more like a campus for the school. Inside that campus, I'm also going to put multi-use spaces that will help to harmonize both Cornerstone and Friends Church and bring them closer together. In fact, my whole goal here is to make both parties invested in their building. My research has shown that a lot of private Christian schools will actually start in a building with dual ownership, like this one with the church, and then when they get too big, they will outgrow that structure and go and move into a separate facility. And if Cornerstone decides to go that way, that's perfectly fine. It may be the best option for them to do. But since I'm using the existing lot for my project, I'm going to propose a different path. That what if these two organizations, which as I've said have a lot of commonalities between them, would actually come together and rally around their current space and grow closer to each other in harmony in a symbiotic type relationship. That's a very optimistic future that I want to try to proceed going forward with this project. So with the issue established, I'm moving on to my research phase, trying to dive deeper into this problem and trying to pull out some design guidelines to help me arrive at those potential solutions. So my research process involved input from the school's advisory board, input from the pastor of Friends Church, architectural resources that my father was able to help me with, and then some on-site visits to the actual campus itself to see how people use the space, faculty interviews with the elementary school faculty and the elementary school principal, and photos of the exterior and interior of the building that would help me when it came time to actually modeling out a solution and modeling out this lot. By far the most important thing for me was the faculty interviews because they actually gave me the user insights needed to help me be able to design the space for kids. Now I can't go ahead and tailor make every single classroom for every single teacher and student grade, but what I can do is take a spectrum of the students that will be using this new elementary school edition and use a couple of these grades to help pull out some design guidelines for me that will help me in coming up with my ideation. The first group I picked was the K4 or pre-K students, and this is because they are the youngest people who are going to be using this building. The first thing to keep in mind for them is that they are small. They need a tailored design down to the small details. This came to me when I realized that the K4 teacher doesn't even let some of her students use certain bathrooms in the existing building because the hand sanitizer stations for those bathrooms squirts hand sanitizer at the eye level of these students. So you can see the potential harm and disharmony that can come from not accounting for these smaller proportions and scales in design. Second, these kids are also very fearful. It's often the first time away from home and away from their parents, and they're very depending on their teachers and something that seems more like a parental relationship than a teacher-student relationship. So being able to use design to both welcome and encourage these kids, as well as offering support to the faculty who are caring for them, is going to be high priority. The second group I picked was first grade as an intermediate step in the elementary school process. These kids have a lot more energy and a lot more curiosity, and they're in the stage of becoming independent. They're not quite as dependent as the pre-K students, but they're also not fully developed and fully responsible students either. So we can use design for this group to help bridge that gap between dependency and independency and help hurry them along into a more mature phase where they can take on those student responsibilities down the road. The last group I chose was fourth grade as the oldest students that are going to be using the structure. As the oldest, they had the potential to sort of be brand ambassadors for the school, being able to be at a place of availability and prominence where they can actually help serve their younger classmen. They have a great passion for learning as well, and by this stage they are fully independent students, able to take on the rigors of middle school and high school to come now that they are these fully responsible student roles. So we can use design to give them a little more freedom in what this maturity phase has given them, as well as designing this for brand ambassadorship. The faculty also gave me a lot of client pain points that help to show me what overcrowding really looks like from their perspective in this building, as exemplified in this picture of the building here. Number one is a very narrow hallway width. This was something that was unanimously complained about. The teacher said that there could be up to 4 lanes of students trying to transverse halls like these, not to mention the lockers on one side and coat hooks on the other and doors that can open into the hallway. This all leads to a very cramped circulation that a new design will be able to help solve. Second is a lack of storage space, and this is due to the fact that since the church owns the building, they can dictate what rooms get used for storage or not. So even some of the classrooms that do happen to have a closet may not be able to use that closet if the church has use for it. So designing a new building that will help give these teachers a lot of storage is going to help to declutter their classrooms and really help free a lot of these existing rooms up. Also, there's the issue of little teacher privacy, especially when it comes to restrooms, as at these grade levels, teachers really do not want to be using the same restrooms as their kids or their students. So giving them some privacy in that matter is going to be something that's also high priority. Also, hard to clean materials. As you can see in this image, a lot of the flooring for this building is carpeted, and even some of the walls are carpeted. And with young kids, this can get really gross really fast, which is another pain point for the church, as they're the ones that are responsible for the maintenance and cleaning these buildings. So being able to do a couple simple material selections and material choices will help us to solve that cleanability factor. Also, the issue of few building windows is key. A lot of these classrooms and many of the hallways just don't have access to natural light, which can make a very big difference when it comes to a learning environment. So that's something to take into consideration moving forward. And lastly, that lack of ownership as well. For this being a renting building, Cornerstone can have some troubles with that investment or ownership into that space. So giving them options to be able to display a little bit more of their branding and a little bit more of that space is going to also be very helpful. With those guidelines established, then I can move into my ideation phase and starting to use those industrial design tools to get me closer to what a possible solution is going to look like. My first step is architectural programming. This is simply taking the spaces that we want put into the building and adding this necessary square footage to see what those calculations will be. These are a lot of numbers, so just focus on the 3 on the right side of this page. The first thing I'm going to do is add at least 3 classrooms for each grade per the advisory board's request. I'm actually going to give some rooms such as K4 and kindergarten 4 classrooms to help a little bit more with sizable student bulk. I'm going to put this in a building that has 2 floors to it. This will help to minimize our floor plan and better work with the existing structure. And this isn't to be a freestanding addition, it's to be an addition that's attached to the existing building for child safety. So this is going to make one cohesive structure with this new addition added onto the building. I also did some programming for the master plan as well, taking into consideration both the existing lot, which is green, along with the pink, which is the newly bought land that will also be used in a potential expansion. The 2 main things I want to include in this master plan are a practice soccer field and a practice baseball field. These are things that I believe both the school and the church will have use for, especially Cornerstone, as they have to go to yet another church in order to practice these sports on an athletic facility. So putting this into their campus is going to be something that both they have the room for and will be of great benefit to them going forward. Now for my addition layout, I decided to apply an architectural concept, specifically one that I am calling the educational journey. And what the educational journey is being able to design this building in a way that physically manifests or shows how children are progressing from early childhood through middle school during this elementary school stage. The building is designed to be more like an unlockable process, an exploratory process, where kids are able to see new areas and volumes of the school and new spaces based on as they mature through these grades, and something that's going to give them a little more investment into that process. So after about 25 different floor plan ideas, I finally decided to select this floor plan. And what I really like about this floor plan is how it separates areas that are more for the school versus different areas that can be shared for the school and the church. For example, this bottom rectangular wing at the bottom of the page here houses a lot more of the classrooms, especially the younger classrooms from pre-K all the way up to 2nd grade, in a very self-contained environment with this buffer atrium in the middle that can kind of act as a zone that separates it from these other areas, especially on the first floor, where we'll have the gym, cafeteria, and the kitchen, locker rooms, and main restrooms. These are all spaces that the church might have some interest in as well. So by putting them closer to the existing building, we give the church the option to be able to share and use these spaces while still giving Cornerstone the ability to call some of the spaces inside this addition exclusively their own. You can see in these building circulation studies that since we're building on what is essentially a backdoor entrance in the existing building, it will be able to merge pretty seamlessly and cohesively with this new addition by just including that old exit into the new interior hallways. We're also putting an atrium up towards the top of the new addition on the side of the existing building that can serve as a back door to kind of preserve that exit out of the structure if needed. In terms of colors, materials, and lighting, I really wanted to have my design direction be to blend seamlessly with the existing exterior facade, but also modernizing that structure a little bit. So jumbo brick is the main brick face that is used on the current school building. I want to continue that in the new addition, but also modernize the building with some white accents and maybe some red accents as well, as that's the primary brand color of the school, and some big expansive modern windows. In terms of the interior, I would like a polished concrete floor, which will help with the cleanability factor by getting rid of a lot of those old carpets. And a lot of the other colors in here will be more neutral with certain accent furniture to augment the design. Those interior colors are more neutral because I want to go ahead and give the classes a color code. This is for easy wayfinding so that the kids know where they need to belong according to which grade they're in, and also more investment and ownership in those individual grades based on those colors. So K4 will be purple, K5 blue, first grade green, second grade yellow, third grade orange, and fourth grade red, kind of progressing all the way up to this brand color for the school in this elementary school color coding process. So with those design directions established, I can now move into what that final design is and show you what that finished product looks like. For reference, here is the master plan before any changes, showing you the existing building and current parking lot. The red line is accounting for both the existing land and that new addition land that I'm going to play with this new design. And here is our new master plan. You can see that we've included the new addition, which is now jutting southward off the existing building, which will help to cut the parking lot up into two different areas. The first area closest to the road can be used for school and church faculty parking, as well as having some spots for handicap accessibility and visitors. While a lot of the students who are able to drive to school can park in the back by the soccer fields and pavilions and walk into the back entrance. This addition also gives us the opportunity for busing, pickup, and drop-off on either side of the building to help with circulation. We've also included the soccer field and practice baseball field, which will be oriented 10 degrees off the north-south axis to best optimize sunlight across the lot without being too glaring for the players on those fields. We're also keeping the storage shed that's being used currently by the church and the school, and repurposing another structure into a concession stand area with some restrooms for the outdoor spectators. We're also including an open air pavilion, which will be a new structure, and moving some existing playground equipment to a new location closer to the existing building and the elementary school. Here are some rendered campus elevations, which will show you how the new addition, which is included in these images, actually will help to balance out this building a lot more, especially in the north elevation view. And here are some quick section views that will show you what the new addition will look like from the east and north elevations. You can see in this aerial view that the new addition will actually help to give the whole building a lot more prominence, especially from roadside view, because it allows it to extend that footprint out a little bit for greater visibility. Here's a quick view of the floor plan that we're going to explore further in the coming renders, but just give you a quick taste of what the first and second floor are going to look like. And now we'll start a rendered walkthrough. So we'll start here with the full campus, and we're going to be zooming in to where those two buses are for what early morning drop-off will look like. Here is that main entrance of the new addition space. You can see the exterior has been modernized slightly with that white brick and those red accents. We've also adjusted the sun here to be what it would be in the morning during a school day. And you can see how this new addition is able to capture a lot more of that sunlight and use that sunlight inside the building. Now those entrances will lead into an expansive atrium or foyer space, with the main focal point here being this larger staircase. And this room is designed to really help solve overcrowding by getting all the students who don't go to class on the first floor up immediately to their classrooms. Since the second floor is going to house everybody from first grade to fourth grade, getting that large student bulk just up to those floors immediately is going to free up a lot more space for those pre-K and kindergarten students, let them feel a lot less intimidated as they go to meet their faculty, as you see here in the bottom left by that column, and head into their respective wings. And we're actually going to follow those younger students to see what those wings are going to look like. So going through those doors, we see this is the K4 half of what this lower class wing looks like. And you notice right off the bat that these hallways really are a lot more expansive, like rooms. In fact, these are like 25 to 30 feet across. And that's intentional, as I wanted this to feel more welcoming and inviting with this larger open floor plan where all the classrooms can kind of be off this main central point. This also gives us the option to put in a large countertop in the back of this area, which allows for more storage for the K4 teachers. It also allows us to use this area as sort of a staging ground for these students. So at the end of the day, when their parents come to pick them up, they can all wait in this space, and then the faculty can bring them out to their parents, give them sort of a waiting area in order to be able to sit. It also, for architectural purposes, allows us to fit in the staircase and means of egress needed to make this area apply with architectural code. Off of that K4 wing, we're going to have those 4 K4 classrooms, as seen here. The main feature to attract you to here is the windows. We're putting in large expansive windows, but since this is the first floor, child safety is still a very big priority. So we're putting these windows up to around 4 feet 10 inches, near 5 feet. Which will not only help with safety for these children, but also keep them from getting constantly distracted as they keep looking outside at every passing moving thing. So it's for a dual benefit and dual purpose there. Every K4 and kindergarten teacher is going to have access to their own bathroom and storage space with these Jack and Jill units placed between every 2 classrooms. These doors are accessible with a teacher's key card, and for the bathrooms, when one door locks, the other one locks to keep teacher privacy a main factor from both sides. Opposite the K4 wing, we have the kindergarten wing, as you can see here. It retains the same larger hallway idea while still adding in a child-centric bathroom space, as well as a lounge that can be used by both kindergarten and K4. This area acts as sort of a change of venue so that teachers can bring their kids there just to have a change of scenery if they're getting too stir-crazy inside their classrooms. On the second floor, the first and second grade wing will really mirror what the kindergarten and K4 wing looks like, but you can see now that these students are a little older, we can help them in that transitionary phase by updating their furniture a bit. So instead of cubbies, you see we have lockers now, which are in the main red branding of the school. We also are updating the furniture in the lounge, and this is all to give these students more responsibility and ownership as they progress along the educational journey. Here's an example of what the first grade classroom could look like. This is also one of the rare rooms that actually has a cool window view of the existing building as a nice touch of scenery, yet at the same time to account for the fact that we could have sunlight reflections off the glass feature and just dealing with sunlight in general. We're going to equip rooms like these with pull-down blinds that will help shade all that sunlight and provide a more comfortable learning atmosphere. So now we exit that more self-contained lower class wing and proceed across the atrium to the 3rd and 4th grade area. The 2 grade doors on your left are actually for the 4th grade. I'll explain why I put their classrooms right there in the middle of the atrium. And then right below the 3rd grade corridor, we have the way to the gymnasium, which also contains some seating, and the faculty offices, which we will visit right after touring the 3rd and 4th grade areas. The 3rd and 4th grade wing is going to feel more like a traditional student environment. We're also moving this area closer towards the existing building, which means that we might get more cross traffic from middle schoolers and high schoolers, which will help these 3rd and 4th graders get a little more acclimated to the existing building as they get ready to transition from the elementary school wing into their next row of classrooms in that existing building. Here's a view of what that 4th grade classroom space could look like. Again, these rooms are kind of placed in the middle of the atrium, one, because I thought that these students, as brand ambassadors, might be of a place of availability and a place of prominence inside the actual building, so as they might be more available for those younger classmen as they serve as brand ambassadors and servants to those below them. This also allows us to end that educational journey on a rewarding vantage point as these rooms have very expansive views over the school campus. So by having these spaces at the end that these students are working up towards, it gives us that rewarding endpoint for this journey through the elementary school edition. Below the 3rd and 4th grade wing on the 1st floor, we have this extra space as we head towards the gymnasium. Since this area is closer to the existing building, it's an area that both Cornerstone and Friends Church might have some usage for. So we're going to include some dual branding in the space, as long with some more seating to help bring these groups together and giving a more communal environment to the space. Before we head out the gymnasium, we're going to check out the glass double doors on the right, which will lead into the elementary school faculty offices. This elementary school office space is really a space for all elementary school faculty. In it, we're going to have private teachers' restrooms, an extra office in case teachers need a private area to take a phone call, as well as a reception desk, an area for other office workers. It's also going to have a conference room in it, which can double as sort of a lunchroom for these teachers, as well as a little kitchenette area outside of that, which will house the sofas you see in this image. And then also just basic teacher amenities such as a microwave, coffee machine, refrigerator, printer and copier, and other essential supplies needed for a teacher's lounge. Across from the office space, we have the gymnasium, which will serve as an indoor recess area for these kids, as well as doubling as their cafeteria come lunchtime. As you can see on the 1st floor in the corner of this room, there is a recessed kitchen area that will be able to serve food to these kids. Come lunchtime, we'll be able to pull tables and chairs out of an adjacent storage room, which will give us seating options for 260 students, or over half of the school's current population. This render also shows you the interior windows on the 2nd floor that will be able to look down upon the gymnasium. Here we have the rear entrance of the building opposite the doors that we came in. This can also be used for pickup and drop off. You can also see in this picture the 4th grade classrooms, which are kind of overhung over the building, kind of giving us a sheltered area underneath for use in bad weather. As we zoom out from that rear entrance, we can see the sports complex here with the soccer field and practice baseball field included. We're actually going to zoom back in on the 2 structures towards the middle of this image, as that will be our sports pavilion. The sports pavilion complex comprises of 2 different structures. The first, the one closest to us in this render, is an existing building that is currently just being used for maintenance and storage purposes. We were able to retain some of that storage capacity while also adding in an indoor ticketing and concessions booth, as well as restrooms for the spectators. The second is just an open-aired pavilion with seating inside of it. This can be used for both sports spectators, but also for the church for youth group events or just having an outdoor venue for certain ministries. So to wrap everything up, I do believe that my solution is able to solve the problems of my client. For the overcrowding issue, it is able to provide not just more space, but space specifically designed for children that will help to give Cornerstone more ownership and investment in their current facility. In terms of creating harmony with Friends Church, through the use of communal and versatile spaces, we're able to provide areas for both these organizations to come together and foster greater relationship between the 2 of them. It also gives both these groups more opportunities for service, as equipping them with spaces such as a soccer field or gymnasium or pavilions is only going to help further their ministry and outreach to the community and better that community, which is something I'm proud to be able to contribute to in this capstone project. So thank you so much for listening to this presentation. I want to give a quick special thanks to my advisor, Carlos Chang, who helped me throughout this semester, as well as all ICC faculty, as well as the faculty of Cornerstone Christian Academy for allowing me to work with their facility in this project, as well as the additional support of Friends Church's head pastor, Kyle Reynolds, and my own father for his architectural expertise. Once again, I'm Johnathan Stopp, and thank you for listening to my capstone project.